Back when I was in high school in 10th grade, I started dating this girl named Jessica. We met in morning detention, and morning detention is where they'd send kids who came into school late without an excuse. So we didn't really know each other. We didn't have any classes together. We just happened to meet in morning detention. And we started talking, and then like a day later, we were dating. Anyway, when people found out we were seeing each other, they'd always come up to me and say, "Whatever you do, stay away from Jessica's dad. Do not get on his bad side." And I'd always hear that, and I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Now, Jessica lived 2 blocks away from the school, which means we'd frequently cut class and go sneak out to her house when her parents were at work, which was awesome, especially back in those days because, we'd have her whole house to ourselves, which means no parents. We'd hang out in her room, and you can imagine what was happening up there. So one day we were hanging out in her room, and just doing our thing, and all of a sudden we hear the front door open, and Jessica looks at me, like she'd seen a freaking ghost. Her eyes were as big as saucers. Yeah, I like that, as big as saucers. That's the first thing I could come up with in my head to describe how terrified she looked. She just froze. She didn't move. And she just stared at me for a second, and she said, "My dad's home." Terror does not begin to describe the feeling I felt at that moment. Poop is what surprisingly did not come out of my butt when this happened. Because I was scared enough to shit myself at that moment. Because not only were we both cutting school, but she had told her dad that she wasn't seeing anybody because apparently her dad was very serious about her not having any boyfriends right now at this point in her life. Like, really serious about it. So he didn't even know I existed. And just to clarify, I'd seen a picture of her dad before, and he looked like the type of dude you did not want to mess with, okay? Like the type of guy that would rip your fucking head off. And so we're both panicking. We're both whispering to each other, like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And I'm like, I don't know what to do. This isn't my house. I don't know your dad. So here's what she tells me to do. She tells me to hide under her bed, and she's going to tell her dad that school let out early or something like that. And so I go to hide under her bed, and as soon as I do this, her dad starts walking up the stairs, and this is what he says. He says, "Jessica, I know you're home. Do I hear a boy up there?" And so I hear this, and I'm cowering under her bed, shaking, and my life starts flashing before my eyes. So Jessica bolts out of her room and goes and meets her dad at the top of the staircase, blocking him from walking in and finding me under her bed. And she's like, "Oh, Dad, school let out early today, and there's no boys here. I was just watching TV. And he's like, "I think you're lying to me. What did I tell you about having boys over?" And so she talks her way out of it. She keeps feeding him the same lie. There's no boy here. School let out early. Blah, blah, blah. You just heard the TV. And you could tell he's like not really buying it. But anyways, it bought us some time, and she walks back into the room, goes under the bed, and says, "You have to leave." And I'm like, "Well, how am I going to leave without him seeing me?" And she's like, "You have to go out of my window." And I'm terrified of heights, and she's on the 2nd floor. It's kind of a drop. But I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to risk breaking my leg to escape the wrath of her dad from hell. Now, her 2nd floor window was right above her 1st floor kitchen, which is where her dad was at this moment. Which means I had to jump out of the 2nd floor, land on the grass, and run as fast as possible. So that's exactly what I did. I landed on my feet, thank God, because like I said, it was pretty high up there. And I didn't look back. I just kept running and running and running. And I ran all the way home. And I lived, it was an hour walk from her house to my house at the time. and I ran the whole way, and I never looked back. And to this day, I'm still running from Jessica's house.